Let's go over the new patch. Next few patches, we're gearing up for the first major release of anti-boosting and smurfing stuff, and a few other behavior related things in 15.18, so patches are going to be pretty light these next two patches. Okay. So RIOT has hit someone today, right? That the person that went like 40-0 in their Smurf account. So I guess they're gonna actually finally, after like what 14 years, they're actually gonna finally start doing the anti-boosting and smurfing. And if they're really good at it, then maybe these boosting sites and all that stuff is slowly gonna die out. In the meantime though, continuing our strategy of getting some alt build variety, we have some changes to AP Aurelia, Lane Kane, AP Kog'Maw, Vayne Jungle, Nala Jungle. Would love to hear what other things you'd like to see. We'll also be preparing for our Worlds patch coming up pretty soon. Can't believe it's come up so quickly after MSI. Now some thoughts about that. So some of these things are really weird to me. Red side dot changes. Thanks so much to the players who found these changes in the first place. They've stabilized really well and both Sinch and Rumble are now falling into the line with the rest of champions, showing similar blue and red side discrepancies. However, they're both OP, so hitting with a nerf. Item changes, we're also throwing in a few changes to a few underperforming items with very few uses across the board. Horizon Focus has also really not been picked up by a major audience outside of Vel'Koz. Profane is failing to pick up any real numbers of users on first item, except for Queen sometimes. It's clearly weaker than other alternatives, so we're buffing it with a skew towards first item performance. Gwen, she's the most present top laner and for a good reason. After laning buffs, she's pretty hard to put behind, while having strong scaling and hard countering certain archetypes. Changes this patch are aimed at giving her some weakness. Yunara is quickly climbing up to be the most powerful ADC on the patch. There are a few power impacting bug fixes going this patch, mainly on her bounces. We'll monitor how powerful these are and otherwise reassess next patch. Okay, let's talk about this. So first of all, AP Aurelia buff. I feel like, I don't want to be that guy, but RIOT is really like just fanboying BAUS at this point, no? With AP Aurelia buff and with Kayn lane buff, and then last patch with Sion buff, it's just kind of hard to not admit. I just think this is just literally just BAUS influence. Like, you cannot spin it any other way, honestly. Like, I mean, I don't mind it, right? He's my teammate and he's also really fun to watch, but goddamn, has like there ever been a player that has influenced this much of their balancing as BAUS in the last 2, 3, 4 years? I don't think so. Kassadin buff, happy to hear. I think this champion has been garbage for God knows how long. I hate playing it. Like every time I play Kassadin, because people ask me, play Kassadin, Nemesis, play Kassadin. Every time I hate it so much, and I love the champion, but I hate playing it so much because this champion feels so unsatisfying. I hope it's AP scales buff. I always personally felt like Kassadin should be a scaling champion. I have no idea why his AP scales are as bad as they are. Buff his E or Q, anything AP scaling, like please. You can have like 400 AP, your E can't even kill a minion wave. He's not incentivized to build items like Rabadon because the only thing Kassadin is incentivized to do is just stack mana items. So you go Malignance and Seraph and Roa in the same build, and then you slap a Zonia on top of it or whatever. The champion just simply doesn't scale. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I don't know. I don't know where we're going with this, but yeah, good to see Kassadin on the buff list. So Kayn lane, so maybe this could be like mana related. I think Kayn on top lane specifically can struggle with mana because E and W are very mana draining spells. So maybe that's where RIOT could actually buff Kayn. Kog'Maw AP. So I was a big Kog'Maw AP player.
Finally accept last Kassa changes were a nerf?
Yeah, that's true. Kassadin got actually nerfed last time, yeah, even though RIOT was stating it was a buff. Regardless of that, Kog'Maw AP. Personally, like, I don't think it's a good idea to buff Kog'Maw AP. Like, I'm a Kog'Maw AP player, but I just think AP Kog'Maw just simply does not have good gameplay. Like, it is just not fun to play against this shit. Now, maybe in 2025, when champions have more tools, maybe it's just easier to shut down AP Kog'Maw because you're gonna be able to find engages, and Kog'Maw is like he has no ability. He can't peel anything. He dies really fast, even as AP Kog'Maw. So the last time I think AP Kog'Maw was really OP was like in 2020 when I was in Fnatic and there was like AP Kog'Maw meta. And back then, I think AP Korg just had a lot better items. And there probably wasn't as many tools in the game to like kill him. It wasn't as easy to just find hard engage. So maybe AP Kog'Maw will never be as good as it used to be, but I still think it's like really scary to buff AP Kog because it just kind of kills waves and then it just like at level 16 just like from half a screen away hits you with ult, blah blah blah, right? MF buff, I think this makes perfect sense. I think it's totally fine to buff MF. She's definitely weaker than most ADCs in the game. There's no real reason to play her.
Hey,
She should be...
saw the Viego mid video. Do you think you will be able to pull it in scrims?
She should be able to be played, especially in Lomemar, because she's a good beginner champion. Morgana, so this is probably a follow-up from last patch because they buffed her W and it did absolutely nothing. So they're probably going to give her something more this patch, maybe even more W damage. I don't know. Then we have Nyla, okay? Now, let me talk about this for a little bit. So, Nyla and Vayne. RIOT right here says that this is Vayne jungle and Nyla jungle. Now, let me be perfectly honest. I think it is fine to add junglers in the game that are like niche, like Yana. For example, last patch, I think it was an okay addition. Maybe a Sylas jungle buff. I can kind of see this type of champions. I don't think it makes any sense for Nyla or Vayne to be able to jungle. Like, literally, zero sense. No, let me quickly help you understand. I don't think these buffs, whatever they do, they're probably not going to be big enough to make Vayne and Nyla a competitive jungler. So then, okay, then you have to look at it from the lens of these champions on bot lane and top lane are just getting buffs at clearing jungle camps. This is basically lane Nyla and lane Vayne getting buffed at clearing jungle camps. Now you have to understand. Now you have to come to the discussion of, should champions really be getting buffed? Like all these champions, should they really be should there really be a huge discrepancy in some lane champions being able to jungle and some lane champions not being able to jungle? I don't see it. I personally think every champion in the game that's not a jungler should probably be having an easier time doing a camp mid to late game. I think this needs to be a systemic change, and I think this random monster mod damages on champions that don't make sense just shouldn't be in the game. So personally, I don't really I mean, I kind of this is just a buff for Nyla and Vayne on top and bot, like Vayne top, Nyla bot, whatever. But I just, it's not going to be enough to make them a viable jungler. But in case RIOT wants to make them a viable jungler, I don't think it makes any sense. Nyla's kit only makes sense as a bot laner because she has XP share. She doesn't make sense as a top laner, mid laner, or jungler. And I think Vayne also doesn't make any sense for it to be a jungler. I saw some guy on my YouTube the other day suggesting that Queen should be a jungler. And I'm like thinking to myself, are you crazy? Can you imagine Queen being a jungler, hits level 6? She has the most broken ganks in the game. That makes no sense for it to be a jungler. At least in my opinion. Anyway, moving forward. We have a Senna buff. I'm here hoping that this is a Senna support buff. Although I think Senna ADC is probably also fine to buff. Because she did fall down because Ra did kind of got her soul gain. And she's no longer played. I think Senna support, the last time Senna lost all of armor growth, they nerfed like 0.6 armor growth and some flat armor. So maybe they should give her some armor back because she's very squishy these days, in my opinion. But maybe that's a good thing, I don't know. Then we have Sett here. So Sett, in case people are wondering, is apparently a jungle Sett buff. Freak said on Reddit comment, I saw it the other day, earlier today, that Sett is jungle focused, so this is apparently going to be Sett jungle, and Sett jungle actually used to be meta back in 2020 as well when I played pro. It used to be a Sett jungle meta where Sett jungle was just like, back then it was just like tank Sett jungle that just like rushed Hex, he had like Hex Flash and he was just Hex Flashing over walls, ganking people 24/7. I think Sett does make some sense as a jungler and I'm not opposed to this change, I think this is fine. Champion nerfs. So first of all, Gwen. If you guys watched my clip the other day, I complained that RIOT has failed balancing on Gwen, that this champion is way too OP and should be nerfed. And that it took them this long to react. Like, I'm happy it's happening, but I think this is a massive fail on RIOT balanced him, because this champion went with no nerfs for way too long. Now, I want to emphasize that people shouldn't be gaslit. There's a lot of Gwen mains on Reddit being very vocal that Gwen needs a revert on the rework, and that Gwen is in the worst stage she has ever been, and Gwen is a 48% win rate solo queue champion. This is completely wrong. All of them cannot read stats. They do not realize that Gwen is insanely mastery skewed and she's actually overpowered, which RIOT knows, which is why they're nerfing her. This is not just a pro problem. She's actually just overpowered in solo queue as well, because she's insanely master skewed. People just don't realize it. The Grand mains are just trying to gaslight the community. Whatever, moving on. Mastery makes perfect sense for people that were following the patch, last patch. RIOT made Mastery Q be able to, you were able to interact it with Kraken Slayer. And every Mastery now rushes Kraken Slayer. Mastery gained over 1% win rate with this buff, which is way too high, and now he's like in the higher threshold of win rate, so RIOT has to nerf it. Makes sense. I think the last patch, they probably shouldn't have given him that, to be honest, but yeah. Rumble and Singed. So fun fact, Rumble and Singed gained around 3 to 4% win rate with these new changes. Yeah, they're both OP. There's nothing really to discuss here. Singed is literally the best champion in the game this patch. And I'm not even kidding. Like, Singed from Iron to Challenger is the best champion to play this patch. Win rate wise. Like, if you just look at the statistics with how much power he got with these new changes. This is absolutely free elo. This patch. Like, Singed players are just probably like mega peaking right now. And the same goes for Rumble. Although Rumble is like insanely high elo skewed, while Singed is not. So Singed is just a better champion for vast majority of player base. Axiom Arcanist. I'm kind of happy to see this one. I think Axiom Arcanist is a garbage rune. Literally not worth playing on almost any champion in the game. I can't even think of a champion that actually plays this rune, besides maybe Garen, who ups into sorcery anyway. That's like the only champion that really uses it, from what I've seen. Wait, Axiom Arcanist is an item. I'm fucking dumb. This is actually an item buff. I thought it was the rune buff, and I was being happy the rune was getting buffed. Never mind, this is actually the lethality item being buffed. I think that's also fine, I guess. I mean, that item is not really used much. When it comes to lethality items, Opportunity and Yomus are generally the best lethality items in the game. Like, Opportunity is really being slept on. And then Selder's Grudge is obviously pretty strong too, right? Okay. So this is fine. Axiom Arc, I would say a little bit underpowered. Doesn't have real, like, a lot of users. Very solo queue good item, like Hubris. So, makes sense. Horizon Focus, well, also makes a lot of sense. I've talked that Horizon Focus is bad, even after RIOT buffed it. I said it's a bad item, that Roa and Horizon Focus are one of the worst AP items in the game. Now, Roa is still being utilized by pro players a lot, but this is mainly because of Catalyst, which I proposed many times that Catalyst is the strongest epic item in the game, should be nerfed, and Roa should be buffed. Now, RIOT did give a slight buff to Roa with 100 mana, which is not that big of a buff, like a couple of patches ago. Horizon Focus, yeah, definitely needs to be buffed. I'm happy it's getting buffed. I think what this item needs is, it's very hard to give it like more stats. It already gives like a lot of haste and a lot of AP. So I think the best way to just buff the item is just to make it cheaper. So I would give it another 100 gold reduction maybe, or like 100 gold, 5 AP, I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to see where else we're going with stats on this item. The identity is really weird on this item because it's mostly just a stat stick. And then we have Prof and Hydra. I do have to say that I think Prof and Hydra should not be in the game. This might be a controversial take, but I think first of all we have too many Hydra items in the game. Second of all, I think Hydra items are extremely toxic and hard to balance in general. I don't think it makes sense for Assassin class to really have a Hydra item myself. I just don't see it. And I also think this item is insanely hard to balance. So buffing it, I'm very skeptical of it. This is just my take. But we had metas where Prof and Hydra was like rushed and like Zad mid and fucking I don't know what else and everything. Like every wave just didn't exist. And I hate it when waves just don't exist because the item removes the waves from the game. This is just my take. I think the game is a lot healthier when, I don't know, Zad is rushing Eclipse or he's rushing, what is that other item he buys that slows an auto, whatever the name is. Like, I think the item system is fine. The Lethality item system is not super underpowered or something. Like, they have good items like Opportunity and whatever. I'm just not a big fan of Prof and Hydra. This is also a Queen buff, obviously, right? Like, let's not forget, Queen is probably the happiest champion here. So this is actually just another BAUS buff. So this is just, it shouldn't even be called patch 15.17. It should be called patch 15.BAUS, I guess. Anyway, to close here with the patch. So some of these changes are fine. Some of them I'm a bit skeptical of. The saddest part of the patch for me, from my perspective, is that this patch has pretty much zero mid lane changes. Third patch in a row. Yeah, I said this last patch, right? And the patch before that. No mid lane changes. Like last patch we got Kiana, which was mainly a jungle change, a little bit mid, and Viego mid lane. This patch we have Horizon focus. Literally nothing else here that I see. I mean, Kassadin, are we really gonna talk about Kassadin being a mid lane patch, bro? Mid lane change? So, very little mid lane changes from my perspective. 3 patches in a row. And besides that, there are a couple of champs maybe that should be getting nerfed that are not getting nerfed, like Kayle being one of them. I don't know how Kayle keeps avoiding nerfs. This is very sus from RIOT Games. Is there any other champion that I would think about nerfing? Like Talon, I don't know, like Talon jungle, I think very problematic. Yunara, for example, is a champ that I think should have been nerfed probably last patch already, but RIOT just waited very long because she's a new release. Yeah, these are some of the biggest offenders. Oh, yeah, one champion that I really think needs to be nerfed, and I'm gonna start saying it now before, because I think it's already a problem. Jax top lane. Jax is overpowered. Just a matter of time till people realize it. This champion is simply overpowered. Very frustrating to face, because his E is just a very frustrating spell. I would really like if that champion didn't have perma uptime on E, like he Qs in, is, Zhonya's is again. Garbage gameplay. And I'm not talking about AP Jax. I think like AD Jax is definitely more problematic because nobody plays AP Jax besides BAUS. Anyway, yeah, that's the patch. We'll see tomorrow with the full changes for what they cook up.